Hello, it is Saturday the 23rd of September and I'm going to do a review of the week that ended September 22nd in the 220 EMA Upside Breakout system. And for the last 3 weeks I've been doing a review of the week, so you can go back and check the others to see what stocks were popping up in the lists, and I'm going to show this week what's actually happened to stocks that were in a trade and the ones that closed this week too. So there's a standard disclaimer. Basically, I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not recommending any stocks. Backtesting has limitations, and all trading involves risk, and you need to do your own due diligence. There was a webinar on the 220 EMA Upside Breakout system, and if you want to see a review of that webinar, get a replay, you can go to this link here. So it's edgerator.com/details.aspx $CTX equals and then 220 EMA webinar. If you are running the program EdgeRater, you can easily get to this link without typing this information in, just by clicking on your video help once you're in the program. So let's go ahead and fire up EdgeRater and take a look at what happened this week. So just to recap on how you can get to the template, it's in the stocks and commodities category. So you click on stocks and commodities, you find your 220 EMA Upside Breakout template, and you can just select it, or I also like to put a little star beside it so that it then appears in my favorites channel. So I have it selected from my favorites. I make sure my list, and I'm using the list of CBOE weeklies. This is a list of all stocks that have weekly options, so there are 459 of those. And I'm going to run this template on this list of stocks. So all I have to do is click on Run. And I came on another screen, but I'm going to bring it over here. So here's basically the current state of play for all of these stocks. If a stock is currently in a trade based on this system, then there will be a current gain level listed down in this column here. There will also be a bar since buy greater than 0, and this will tell you how many bars that this stock is currently has been in the trade. And what I can do is actually sort this by current percent gain and then filter out the blanks. So we get the highest percent gains to the top of the list of stocks that are currently in a trade. If I go to the bottom of this list, then you'll see we go down through to a bad trade down here in Fitbit, which is a -8%, and then another one down here, Genworth, -7%. But in general, there's lots that are above the 0% level, going all the way up through the 6s and 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, 14s, 20s, and we've got this week's winner so far is Navistar. If you remember, you watched this video last week, you would have seen Nav was on the list last week. This week it's actually had more of an improvement as well, so we can double click on Nav and it will bring up the chart, and we can see I've clicked on this day, so I've clicked on the 9/22 this report was run for, so it's pointing out that that's the bar that I've selected. I'm going to turn that off, and we can see here, looking at the bottom area, we can see when this entered into the trade is when the blue line went to the 1 level. So entered into the trade down here. Last week we were around about this level, and then this week it's gone on to make further gains. So currently this stock is at a 31% gain since the entry. If we come down through the list a bit, EMES, that hasn't been in a trade for that long. It's only 8 bars in a trade, but also had pretty good week last week. And you see it's currently up at 24%. We hit the entry over here. The system, by the way, this template will tell you whenever the entry is. It will alert you to it. It will tell you the stop, the entry stop that you need to place in order to follow the system along in your trading program. So you can enter that into your Thinkorswim platform or TradeStation or whatever you use for actually trading. So the template actually tells you all you need to know. Is there an entry? Is there an exit today? What's the current entry stop level? What's your current exit stop level? And so on and so forth. But this is a great way to follow this every day or every week and see what happens. So basically the system is trying to get you into stocks that trend and keep you in those stocks for as long as they're trending. And it will take you out of a stock if, actually the rules for taking you out are if it hits the 20 EMA. So if the price touches 20 EMA, then it's going to take you out. So currently you can see the EMES is still in a trade. And as we go down through the list, we've got a 23% gain currently in VNet. Shopify is currently at 21%. ABBV. Remember last Friday I talked about this, that we had this bar came in on Friday. It was looking a little worrying, but it hadn't hit the exit. It further sold off on the Monday, and then since recovered. So it's not as high as it has been, but it also hasn't hit the exit either. But if it does come down and hit the exit on Monday, you're still going to be in a gain on this trade. So the only way this trade can lose is if there's a gap down that comes way down below the entry. So it does happen sometimes, but not all the time, and definitely not all the time. So, but it's just something to be aware of if you're actually holding this stock as a, just a long stock position. There is the potential for it coming down, but the beauty of these stocks is that they all have weekly options associated with them, so you can limit your risk in that regard and potentially take an option instead. And an option can will not come down as far as the stock price would if you take an option that maybe has a 70 delta or something like that. So you can protect yourself a little bit in that way, because you know what your maximum loss is going to be. Whereas if you hold a long position in a stock, you never really know. The maximum loss is actually full value, so just something to consider. Okay, anyway, come down a bit further. Let's just scroll down through these stocks that are still in trades and are doing pretty well in the trade based on this trading system. And as I said, you can see there's quite a few that are in significant gain territory. And the bar since buy on these, generally the longer the bar since buy, the more the higher percentage it's made, because it's the stocks are potentially trending, and so the longer you stay in trending stocks, the more percentage gain they make. Here is a little exception to the rule, and that is Staples, and it's just not done anything since it hit the entry down here. It's basically stayed around this 10 level. So for whatever reason that might be, but anyway, that generally is the rule: is the higher the bar since buy, the higher the percentage. Okay, so that's the current state of play, and what I want to do is take a look at the stocks that closed this week, because it's not until the close is hit that you can actually realize the gains that have been made. These are all somewhat fictitious. They are the current price of the stock, but of course they could come lower than here, they could go higher than here by the time the stock exits. So let's take a look at everything that exited this week. Okay, and that's really easy to do by going into the entries and exits tab, and there is a script here called, I'm going to search for my sim script, my 220 EMA Upside Breakout script. I'm going to put it into the entries tab and hit run. Before I hit run, I'm just going to set my date filter. I always do this because my list has got 20 years of data, and I don't need to run this system over all of these stocks for 20 years. I just want to run it this year. And the reason I don't do it just for this week, if I'm looking for trades that are exited this week, is because the entry could have been a lot earlier. Okay, so I'm assuming here that the entry is not going to be before the beginning of this year. Of course, it could be, but it's very unlikely, and so I'm just going to use January 1st, 2017. And you can choose to use the whole date range if you want, but it's going to take a little bit longer to run. So I'm just going to use that date filter, and I'm going to hit my run, and progress bar in the bottom left shows you how far it's got with the processing. Comes up with my list of entries. It's also generated the list of exits, and the trade simulation tab is where you can tie all of those together. Just say run on there, and it will produce a trade list of all of those trades that have actually exited. Now, I said I wanted to look just for stocks that have exited last week, so what I'll do is I'll sort by exit date twice, so I have a descending sort, And I know that the first day of the week was Monday, the 18th, I believe. Yes, Monday the 18th. And so if we come down to the 18th, I know that anything beyond there, so 15th and beyond, is from a previous week. So the 18th is what I'm interested in. And so we can take a look at the chart here. Very useful now if you put annotations on, because what that will do is it will show, because I'm looking at a trade list, it will actually show me the entry and exit highlighted. So using this method, I can just scroll down through this list and see the everything that exited this week. I should say last week. Everything that exited last week, and also the entry for these could have been weeks before, or you know, it didn't necessarily enter last week. These are stocks that exited last week. Okay, so we've got our percent gains here. Is a 5% gain. Here is a 3% gain. Here's a nothing really, and so on. And we can go down through. We can see the losses. Okay, this is a stock that came up on the list. Actually, probably that was on Friday. So it came up on the list on Friday, or entered into a trade on Friday, but did exit this Friday. So basically sold off to the 20 EMA since it exited. But if we go down through the list, we've got some nice gains down in here. We've got some that are some of these red. Red is negative gain, or I should say a loss. So we've got some of those, but then we've got some really nice big gains. So here we have Ralph Lauren, which we talked about last week. It was still in the trade last week, by last weekend, but it did exit this week on Wednesday. So if you were in that trade and you had your stop loss set here, you would have gotten out right there. You'd have had 19% gain. Weibo also exited. You'd have had a 16% gain in there if you entered when the system said to enter, and when you exited when it said to exit. So another nice one down here, Mankind. Now, if you remember Mankind, I talked about this last week, and what had happened last week is we had this run up here. So this ended up at the top here on Friday at on Friday here, was at a 40% gain since the entry. Now, I also mentioned in that video, if you go back and check it out, that anything could happen here, and there was a distance between the close price and the 20 EMA, so it could actually come down and touch the 20 EMA and get stopped out for a much less of a gain, and it turns out that gain was 19.29%. So still a very healthy gain in that position. You have to kind of get over this idea of trying to exit at the absolute top of the market, because it's just not feasible to know when that is. You just don't know. So you've got to have defined entry exit rules, and in this case they're based purely on the technical aspects of the 20 EMA. But of course you can define your own exit rules too, and you might even have exit rules that would be based on risk versus reward. So you may say, well, I'm going to risk 1 here, and I know that if then the stock goes up by, or comes down to, say you entered down here, okay, the entry is defined at $1.63. At this point, you know the exit is $1.36. So you know that distance there, that can be your risk, and then you can say, well, I'm going for 3 times the risk as my reward. So you could have done something like that. But this particular system is not doing that. It is just using the technicals for it, and I'm trying to show the results of this every week so that we know what's going on in this particular trend trading system. And that's what it is. It's a trend trading system. Now, so the question would be, take a look at all these stocks. Did they, in general, if you took every single one of these, did you actually end up with a positive amount of money, or a positive gain last week? Now, the way you can do that is to use the editing features of this spreadsheet in EdgeRater. What I can do here, I haven't shown this before, so this will be very interesting. You can hit the pop out button, which brings it up in this report in a new window, if you like. I can click on my trade list, so now I've got exactly the same list I was looking at in the original area. I I can then also do my sorting. So I'm going to sort twice, and I'm going to go down to the 18th, which was Monday, and I don't want anything before that. So I'm going to highlight everything before that. So scroll right down to the bottom of the list, and then I'm going to say right click and first of all I'm going to say allow editing. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say delete rows. So now all I have is everything that exited last week, and what I can do here is now sort. And what I can also do, and this is how I'm going to figure out whether the week was profitable in this strategy for this list of stocks, is do a sum. Like what is the sum of this P&L column, not the P&L percent, but the actual P&L column. And this is actually uses spreadsheet language, so I can say equals sum, and then I can go to the top of the list and select that cell, and come to the bottom of the list and select that cell, put my closing bracket in, and we can see that the sum of all of these values is 3,148, so it is a positive number, and so you do have a positive week. If you exited all those trades last week, you would have ended up with a positive amount. Okay, even though it looks like we have more losing trades than winning trades, and that is the nature of a trend trading system, you will have that. The winning trades were more than the losing trades in terms of bigger percent gains. Okay, so that's the strategy, that's the system for this week. That's how it did, and I would suggest if you haven't got the trial of EdgeRater, or if you don't have EdgeRater, get the trial. Go to edgerater.com and download the trial, and you can run this strategy every single day. You'll get 30-day free trial to do it. If you own the program, then you have unlimited use of the program if you have EdgeRater Pro Unleashed and you've got the permanent license, and you can run this every day, and it's a very insightful report to run. So hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll do another review at the end of next week. So have a great weekend. Bye for now.